Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We are going to give about a minute or so for folks to join us. Just a few housekeeping rules for those that are here. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A box to facilitate your questions. We will be answering questions at the end of this webinar once it is over. And the best way to do that is to use the Q&A. If it goes into the chat, we'll try to monitor that as well. However, it's easy for us to monitor through Q&A. And if you are in our webinar, please drop where you're from, where you're located, maybe business or industry that you're servicing. And I am going to pass this off to Brian Oglesby.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Oglesby. I'm President and CEO of EMSDC / World Trade Center of Pittsburgh. And I'm here to be your facilitator for this first session. And my colleague, Liz Walsh, who is co-hosting through WBEC, and this is a joint effort between the EMSDC and WBEC-East. My colleague, Liz Walsh, will not be in the room, so I'll be doing my best to do my best impersonation of Liz as we do the introduction. So how it works is basically, we're going to do an introduction and get right into it with our esteemed panelists, and I'll allow themselves to introduce themselves. This event is basically a result of a collaboration between WBEC-East and EMSDC, and we wanted to make sure we got a fantastic group of experienced professionals together who are experts in the procurement world. These are strange and unique times, and I don't need to read off all the headlines. And if you want to know what's happening, what's changing, just wait 15 minutes. But all these changes and relative chaos as a result of the changes is creating real challenges for everyone as we try to continue to build for our success, expand our companies, expand our reach, maintain the level that we've been in, and then it leaks into our everyday lives, our personal goals, and of course, the smaller businesses, you face additional barriers. You're trying to connect and have secure partnerships and make relationships with these larger corporations, and even in your peers in the marketplace, to try to understand this complex environment. And we understand that navigating this process and these complex procurement systems and effectively communicating can feel like it's a huge hurdle and an impediment to your ability to get to where you need to be and maintain where you are. And that's why we created this platform. This particular one is called Ask the Procurement Experts, and we have a bunch of esteemed experts in the room. And this is a place where we try to offer guidance and mentorship and directly address challenges. I hope the information that you get in this room is going to be useful to you, something that you can build upon and add to your portfolio of knowledge in terms of engaging and managing your business and developing yourself further in your entrepreneurial spaces, but also an opportunity to engage your peers, glean information, take note of who's in the room, pay attention who's in the chat, create and expand your peer network, and engage in your ability to do business-to-business activity. Liz and I will be alternating moderating responsibilities for these next sessions. I'm leading off today, and Liz will probably be running point the next time. And with that, I'm going to introduce our panelists, and I'm going to allow the panelists to introduce themselves. So panelists, here's my call to you. Your name and title, and I'll call the names based on the way the blocks are situated on my view. Your name and title, company you work for, and most importantly, what motivated you to be a part of this discussion. So I'll start off in my blocks with Dr. Lee Lewis. Could you do a quick introduction?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, all. So glad to be here with you. I am Lee Lewis, and I work for Highmark Health. I am the Director of Strategic Business Development. And one of the things that is so important about this event is that in these days and times, we're just looking for ways to give back. And so Brian and I talked about this idea some time ago, and I'm so glad to see it come to fruition with some of my favorite people in the industry. So welcome and glad to be here. Thank you.
We'll go with, thank you, Lee. We'll go with Jen next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Beijing. I am the Senior Manager of Supplier Engagement at Giant Eagle Inc., a retail grocer based out of Pittsburgh. I am here today because a lot of things have changed with my role over time, but the knowledge and experience that I have has not changed. And so I'm happy to have this opportunity to share with all of you some tips and tricks on how to navigate through these uncertain times. Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to say that I spent a lot of quality time at Giant Eagle, aka Big Bird, when I was in college. It fed me and nourished me. Thank you. Next up on the docket, batting third, Dr. Erica Patterson.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Dr. Erica Patterson. I am the new Deputy Secretary for BDSBO, that stands for the Bureau of Diversity, Inclusion, and Small Business Opportunities with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Department of General Services. I am here because I love Liz Walsh. I love Brian and I love Dr. Lee, and I get to work with alongside a few of my favorite folks, Larry, and also Jen, although we just met, but it's a pleasure to be amongst such wonderful thought leaders where we can share out to small businesses and diverse businesses tips and tricks on how to navigate throughout these uncertain times, and more importantly, I'm also here from a capacity building and economic development perspective as well. I think that this topic and this panel is very crucial in this moment for us to share out how we can support you and help you remain focused and develop within your efforts as a small business.
Thank you, Dr. Erica. And batting cleanup, our good friend, Lawrence Wooten.
Thank you, Brian, and good afternoon, everyone. Larry Wooten, Director of Supply Diversity for American Water. And I think I got to step up my game to get to that love part with Dr. Patterson. So I got to do a little work there. But I'm here because, again, as everyone else, the changing times, what's going on with DEI, supplier diversity, et cetera. But in addition to that, I always welcome the opportunity to speak to diverse suppliers, other diversity professionals, just to share knowledge and basically benchmark against each other. So welcome the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think we have a great panel here. We have a lot of knowledge in the room, and I want to get right into the question. We had some questions that we put together, and we have 6 categories, but there's a request for a lead-off question. I'm going to put Jen in this and send her this hanging curveball. I'm using baseball analogies. It's baseball season. So, and I would like each of you to answer this question, and then we'll try to circle back to as many of the questions as possible and address some of the ones in the chat as well. And also we'll be monitoring the chat and maybe provide some typewritten responses to those things in the chat. So first question, and I'll start off with you, Jen, and everyone else can jump in if you so desire. What are the top 3 biggest mistakes companies make when approaching corporations? And it doesn't have to be 3, but if you have a couple of mistakes that companies make when approaching corporations, let's lay that out.
Sure. So I will give one and then pass off to my fellow panelists to fill in the other top 3. One is a very simple one, but I have experienced many times, simply knowing who you're talking to. We have phones at the ready, so doing a simple Google search before talking to a supplier diversity professional goes a very long way. I've been at trade shows where our name is plastered across the top of the board and someone will come up to me and say, well, what do you do? And I'm like, if you couldn't take a couple seconds to know what we do, you're already setting off a not so great first impression. Additionally, knowing the difference between names of companies. So I work for Giant Eagle Inc., often confused with the Giant Food Company. It's a very simple mistake, but it's one that leaves a bad first impression. So it's simple, but it goes a long way if you make the mistake. Anybody else got the other top 2?
I definitely would like to jump in, but before I jump in, Brian and the esteemed panelists, I do have an opening statement disclaimer. Just for everyone's benefit, I am participating in this discussion in a personal capacity. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any organization, employer, or entity with which I am affiliated. So now all the legal stuff is out the way, so now I can answer the question. So I'm going to add to Jen's comment. I really think that one of the biggest mistakes that companies make when approaching corporations is that we all know that corporations have supplier goals, or there's some type of goals or objectives or participation goals or objectives that need to be met. One of the biggest mistakes is that you're leading with your certification and not your qualifications. It's very important for small businesses to lead with what you do, whether it be a product or a service. You lead with the intentions of, I am the #1 qualified vendor to do the job. And then your certification is the icing on the cake. It ties it all together. So if you lead with your capability statement and lead with knowing your products and services and what you have to offer and what unique niche that you can bring to the organization, that is golden. And then tying it up in a nice, wonderful, pretty bow and maybe some vanilla icing, because that's my favorite, then you can also seal the deal with your certification. So I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of small businesses and diverse businesses, they lead with their certification and think that they're automatically going to get the contract. No, you lead with your qualifications, and then that leads you to the access of how to do business with that particular company so that you can see if you're a fit and they can see if you're a fit, and then you tie it all in with the certification. Larry or Dr. Lee?
Sure, I'll jump in on that, and I think those are very, very good points. And I'll take it a step further, and I don't get this as much as I used to in the past. And to what Dr. Erica said, everyone knows that corporations have goals associated with what they do in supplier diversity. A number of times suppliers would lead with, what are your goals? Are you meeting your goals, right? And really, those goals are a piece of what we do. But to Dr. Erica's point, it's really about the value proposition of your company, right? How can you help us? How can you solve a problem that we have been dealing with to really, move the needle? Because at the end of the day, and I'll just give a quick story, then we'll move on. Years ago, I would always internally lead with goals, right? I worked for a government prime contractor, which meant we had a 5% women-owned business goal. We had a 5% small disadvantaged business goal. So when I was talking to procurement, I would always lead with, and this is when I was very young in this, I would say, hey, we have this 5% goal based on our government contracts. We have this 5% women business goal based on our contracts, until my buying community finally said, Larry, that's great, you have those goals, but I also have goals: cost, quality, and delivery. If a supplier can't help me meet those particular goals, then that diverse goal is going to be put on the back burner. So yes, we have goals, but the overall entry to us is really about that value proposition and how you can help us solve difficult problems that we've had, and we can all gain value from that.
Brian, I'll be concise. Don't be all things to all people, business owners. Don't try that, because I've heard people come to me and say, we can sweep the floors, we can serve the food, we can change the sheets, and we can program your computers. No, you can't, at least not well. So focus on what you do really well. Focus on the value proposition that you bring, as has just been said, and certainly what the pain points my organization might have when you decide how to approach us. Avoid trying to be all things to all people.
I think a theme that's going through this first answer is having some good market intelligence. Know who you're talking to.
Do your homework.
Yeah, and make sure that you don't consider the certification the proverbial manna from heaven that's going to flip a switch, because in these environments, a lot of people are coming with a lot of certifications. So I'll stay in this section, and there's a theme that arises from this first section is how do you get to that? How do you get to that first real meeting with someone who can make a decision? What are strategies you could have to secure that actual meeting? Because the initial meeting is usually relatively soft. It's conference based or networking based. But what can you do to get to that first real meeting?
Oh, can I answer this one? I'm excited about this question.
Go for it.
So I'm a huge believer. Everyone who knows me, and if you do not know me, I am a connector, right? And I think, in this climate, and even before the executive orders, I definitely think that we have to be strategic as it relates to building relationships and partnerships as corporations and also as small businesses. So for meaningful connections, partnerships, or supplier engagement, suppliers must be strategic and intentional to yield the results that they're looking to yield, whether you're getting a contract or not. And here are a few, strategies that I think are very form-fitting for this question here. So you want to do thorough research. Great. We already, named that. You want to also know your elevator pitch. This is where you do market analysis research, where you're doing research not only on the business, but also do research on your competitors as well. This will help you prepare not only your elevator pitch, but know who your competitors are so that you can have that competitive advantage amongst them. So it's really important that you have an elevator pitch and have a strong, well-crafted capability statement. You should not be meeting corporations or representatives within the procurement and or supplier diversity space who work for these corporations without a business card, a capability statement, and a 15-second elevator pitch. That shows them that you are interested in doing business with them, and it also shows that you're present in the moment in making that connection with them. Strategic intentionality is where we're going. You want to also, embrace it with a warm introduction. Don't lead with name drops. Sometimes that kind of turns off corporations. But if you have to, lead with name drops, then maybe it may work for you. And then, as part of that warm introduction, you want to lead with your qualifications and seal the deal again with your certification. Do follow-ups. Do not stalk the corporations or the professionals within the corporations. Take the time to revisit why you are a qualified business to do the work, reinforce your value proposition, as Larry mentioned, and this will allow you to leverage the relationship as it relates to you getting to know the corporation, the work that they do, and how you can be responsive and solution-driven in responding to the bids respectfully, responsively, and as lowest bid. Sometimes it's not always lowest bid, but just be responsive. And then last but not least, you want to leverage supplier portals and also industry databases. Know the visibility of the company and what procurement portals or supplier portals that they have. Many corporations out here have many different portals, many different platforms for you to register. It can be a very convoluted process. So take the time to digest that and figure out what portal or industry database is unique to you for you to maximize your chances in getting opportunities for you and your company. And then last but not least, be open to rejection. Every opportunity is not a good opportunity. Be mindful of that and just know, hey, I'm registered with them. Maybe I didn't get that bid or that contract. You could potentially ask for a debrief session to understand why. If the companies do not, recommend that, prepare yourself to do research and figure out how can you be more responsive and improve in the areas where you felt that you may have went wrong in comparison to your competitors. So be open to rejection, be vulnerable in that state, but also be prepared enough to be prepared to move on to the next opportunity. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Erica. I do want to say one thing to reiterate something that Dr. Erica said. Do not stalk, do not stalk, do not stalk. For your persistence in trying to get a meeting to the point where you're constantly going after them and constantly calling them, it's probably going to lead to you not getting the opportunity more than anything. You want to stay in communication, but do not stalk. There is a line. And I'm taking copious notes on these answers. I'm just honing in on some points that kind of permeate. But I'll continue. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, and excellent points, and I'm kind of reiterating it, but I always say you have to know us better than we know ourselves. Is that fair? Probably not, right? When you're meeting with me and you're I'll say a water engineer or a wastewater engineer, I'm not the expert in that space, right? Yeah. So when you approach me, you have to understand that. And if I've done my job well internally, I've spoken to engineering to understand what their opportunities are, right? And they've given me, and based on the feedback I get from them, I get buzzwords, right? So I get keywords from them on what they're looking for and the type of suppliers they are looking for. To Dr. Erica's point, it's really about that 15-second elevator speech. You have to touch on those things and really focus on the industry that you truly feel your capabilities support, right? And this gets back to Dr. Lee's point about being everything to everybody. If you're coming to American Water, know our business, know it better than me, know those things that, and if you're in the water business, you should know what the key drivers are of our business. Address those to me, and then I can link that back to what I've experienced from engineering, and that's how you get that first meeting, or at least you get that next step. Because then I'm going to go to engineering and say, hey, met this supplier, this is what they do, this is who they've done work for, and here are some of the projects that they've worked on, et cetera, et cetera. So know us better than we know ourselves. And you gain that by, a number of different publications, asking me those tough questions. I will say that too. When you meet with me, ask me those tough questions. And if I don't have an answer, I owe it to you to get back to you. So those are my thoughts on it.
Anybody else want to take this one on?
I think that was pretty thorough.
A lot of thorough okay, so we'll get to our next area, and we kind of want to talk a little bit about corporate expectations and supplier readiness. We covered a lot of things we talk about in terms of what it takes to be ready, but what does an ideal partnership with a corporation look like to a small business? Anybody want to tackle that?
Yeah, okay, what does an ideal partnership with a corporation look like to a small business? Well, just based on the interactions that I've had with small businesses, there are things, people obviously want an opportunity. They obviously want a contract. They obviously want something that's going to be lucrative and allow them to be able to expand their business, to offer jobs in their communities, and allow people to have a better quality of life. And so what I get, and one of the things that we have to do as liaisons from these small businesses to our decision makers in representing the things that they might like, pay us on time, pay us in a timely manner. Some of the larger corporations are built for a net 90-day pay period, for instance, but the smaller businesses don't have the same cash liquidity as larger organizations. And so one of the number one thing that I've heard from people is, can we get paid on time? We don't have the same resources as larger organizations. So if we can have a net 30, if we can get a net 15, that would be great. So that's something that I've heard about. And the other thing is to just be given an opportunity. No one is perfect, and we certainly are not looking for relationships that have mistakes built in. But if for some reason there is a mistake that's made or something that might be missed, that there is enough room within the relationship to be able to accommodate understanding, communication, solutioning, because everything involves a learning curve. I don't care who you are, and I don't care how good you are at what you think you do. When you enter into newer relationships, the idea is that there are going to be idiosyncrasies and intricacies associated with both parties that would need to be learned by both parties and accommodated by both parties. If you're a small business, the last thing you want to face is if I make one tiny misstep, all of a sudden the agreement is over and we're done. That's not a successful look for small businesses, and it really works against what they're trying to do. So yeah. I'll leave it at those two things.
Yeah, I definitely would have to agree, Dr. Lee. I think when you, quotation fingers here, ideal partnership, it's that mutual value, that value proposition for both, not just one-sided. And I think now that the climate that we're living in now, we have to start moving from a transactional way of doing business to a more transformative perspective. I'm not big on New Year's resolutions because I never follow them anyway. But one of the things that I have done over the last, I'm gonna say 3 to 4 years, I've selected words that I can, demonstrate towards or visually see myself doing throughout the year. And this year, my 2 words is transformative and collaboration. This is more than the time in itself for all of us to think of to change our mindset, to shift from transactional to transformative, but we need to do that collectively. That's part of critical thinking. And if we're going to expand and build upon to continue fostering the environment, the ecosystem of small businesses, that partnership has to be mutually beneficial. It also has to be transparent. There needs to be open communication as well. So for example, to put my procurement hat on, supplier relationship management is one of the key core competencies of supply chain management. And in order for you to follow through on your relationship or your side of the partnership, you have to be willing and able. It can't be no half-stepping. So a lot of the relationships that need to be built, it should be built on what are you coming to the table with? What am I coming to the table with? Let's be open to understanding each other's role, me as a small business, me as a corporation. This is how you grow and create access, continue to maintain advocacy, and also build capacity throughout the relationship. And it's also, teach one, reach one. That's the motto. And everyone knows my favorite quote is, you meet people where they are to bring them where they need to be. And that is like a mentor protege type of approach as well. So this is how I think an ideal partnership is: changing your mindset from being transactional to transformative and collaborating to reach that mutual value proposition added.
And one thing I'd like to add, as someone who's worked for corporations and for small businesses, I think one of the traps that small businesses can fall into working with large corporations is that once you get the contract secured, that everything else will be smooth sailing, where in reality, I've seen too many small businesses get the contract, but the work won't start for another 6 to 8 months. So that's money that's not flowing through your business that you were banking on. And so I think as you are building these relationships with these large entities that tend to move very slowly, having a diversified portfolio of partnerships, that you have some mid-size or some other small businesses that you are working with to keep the cash flowing through the business.
Yeah.
Because getting the big whale is great, but you may not see money for quite a while, depending on how your contracts are framed with those organizations. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, Jen, that's a good point. And to the small businesses in the audience, don't be afraid to ask for a post-award meeting. That is your opportunity. And even during the Q&A in the pre-bid schedule of events, that is your opportunity to ask the question, what are your payment terms? Right? You want to know upfront, what is the timeline for this project to start? You are obligated to ask those questions. Definitely take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you. Ask those questions during the pre-bid and ask for a post-award meeting so that you can get the answers that you need. Again, it's like an interview. Is this company going to fit for me? And am I going to fit for that company? So that business portfolio that Jen is speaking to, definitely, include you as the interviewer and the company as the interviewee.
Okay. Anything else before I go to the next question?
I would just add, and I think it's been said, but transparency. We're talking, you mentioned the word partnership. That's what this is about, right? So a true partnership means that there is skin in the game for both parties. And this gets back to what Dr. Erica said. Don't be afraid to ask those tough questions. A number of times, small and diverse businesses won't ask those questions because of fear of, oh, I might not get the opportunity because they may not think I'm qualified. You need to ask those tough questions to get the answers you need in order to work with major corporations. And no bad question. No question is a bad question. It only is going to enhance your opportunity. I also always say larger businesses started out as a small business, right? Someone gave them an opportunity to grow their business. So don't be afraid of asking those questions. Understand if this is a partnership, it's a true partnership, and there should be transparency in that. So that's what a Brian, to your original question, what it should look like, transparency.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I do want to, there's another question that popped up on the list here that I want to address, and I think this is an important question and people don't ask enough in the supplier space, and I've been on both sides of the transaction. And I'll just add to a point that every corporation in here is also a supplier. So they're engaging in the life of being a supplier as well, just in a different way because it's just a broader group of people they're supplying to. So they understand the dynamic. But the question I want to pose, and please, anyone volunteer to take this one, explain the role of a supplier diversity professional in the procurement process. Because I think there's a question that requires, I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand. I think it's a great question to ask in context of what we're discussing right now, because we have a supplier coming to a supplier diversity professional and with a certain set of expectations. So if anyone wants to take this, please explain the role of a supplier diversity professional in the procurement process.
Okay, I'll be quick. I'll start it out. Because our job on a daily basis is ever changing, right? It's never the same. It is never the same. I will say to the suppliers on this call, the 4 people you have in front of you today, and it's not only us, don't think we are not advocating every single minute of every day on your behalf. A number of times you will see us at trade shows, you'll see us at a reception, and you think, and your thought is they got the best job in the world, right? But when we are behind the walls of our companies, we are working every single day. I use this analogy. When I'm in a procurement strategy meeting and a procurement director or manager is talking about their strategy for the year, and they haven't addressed small or diverse business in their overall strategy, who do you think is the only one in the room standing up and saying, hey, what is your plan for diverse supplier inclusion in this? And with the looks we get in response to that. So never think that we are not every single day, every minute, advocating on behalf of small and diverse businesses. One, it's our job. They hired us to do that. And this is Larry Wooten's thought on it. If I don't do that, I am being disrespectful to the company who hired me, because that's what they told me they hired me for. I'm being disrespectful to the suppliers I advocate for that I meet at a trade show and ask me, how do I do business with American Water? And then it's disrespectful to me too, because I have pride in what I do. So what we do on a daily basis, every single day, we're, of course, checking emails. We're setting up meetings with senior leaders within the organization to talk about supplier diversity. We are communicating constantly. I have often said I could never be a salesperson. Guess what? I sell every day. Every single day I'm selling. If I'm doing my job right, I'm selling, because I'm meeting with the VP of IT. I'm meeting with the VP of operations. I'm meeting with the VP of engineering, selling and telling them why we need to do what we need to do. And it's much more than the right thing to do. It's the overall economic condition of the communities in which we serve on a regular basis that we are looking to get diverse suppliers included in our overall strategy. So it's always communicating. There's always thinking in your head, what's next? What strategy can I come up with to talk to the president of New Jersey American Water about building out a development program? Thank you, Dr. Erica. But it's all of those types of things. And again, the list, this whole meeting could be about what we do on a daily basis. And please understand, I don't want any pat on the back, because this is what I chose to do. But the question was asked. Every single day, we are selling and advocating for inclusion of diverse suppliers in our overall process.
I would offer 3 things to that. First of all, we're the subject matter experts for our organizations. And that means we have to explain the value proposition and business case for doing business with small, diverse businesses, and position the company to do so through efforts like the ones that Brother Larry just mentioned. It's a daily fight to ensure that people understand the importance of it. For example, one of the things that I have to do when there may be those, and I'm not necessarily talking about my organization, I'm talking about something that's very broad, that say, well, I don't really see the purpose in that. I don't see the need to do that. Well, I can tell you that there are some contracts that rely on us having certain percentages of the contract to go through small, diverse businesses. And so if you're concerned about revenues for this organization, you definitely need to be concerned about whether or not we're interacting with these businesses. Second, we are the two-way liaison between small disadvantaged businesses and internal decision makers. We represent you, small business owners, to the people within our organizations that make decisions, that decide which products they're going to buy and from whom they're going to buy them. But we also represent our organizations to you, small business owner, with regard to what our needs are, what our pain points are, what our qualities and qualification standards are, to help you make a better pitch to us about what it is that you can do. And lastly, in order to be able to position you, we're engaged and involved in business development. You may or may not be ready to do business with our organizations today, but part of what we do is to help you become ready. We help you with scaling. We help you with ideas about personnel. If I'm not mistaken, Larry, you might have a program that's involving mentorship. In fact, I talked to someone who asked me to evaluate her pitch just 3 days ago, and she mentioned that she was in your mentoring program. And so some of us have programs that are designed to help you get ready to do business on the scale that we need, with the quality that we need, with the speed and the reliability that we need. So those are just 3 of the things that we do in addition to what Larry said.
Anybody else care to share on that one?
I would like to. Jen, would you?
I'm good. Everyone's covered what I would have said.
Yeah. So to add to Larry and Dr. Lee, definitely mic drop on both, because I have to first, second, and third that. But to add on there, as they both said, we're here. Our role is to drive access, is to advocate for you, not only externally, but internally as well. And we're connectors. We are here to be that liaison to connect you to the corporate, internal constituents or stakeholders within the corporation. We're also here to promote development, capacity building, and economic development, right? We're also here to teach you also about legal, policy, and process. Those are the 3 main areas, especially now in this climate that we're in. More and more procurement professionals and supplier diversity professionals are working with their legal teams. Before, it was kind of like a hate-love relationship. I'm gonna be real. But now we're working with our legal teams and policy teams to help us navigate throughout these times. Don't be afraid to ask the procurement or supplier diversity professionals, what's happening in your corporation legally, and how is it affecting us from a policy and process standpoint? And then, we're building inclusive procurement. We're diversifying our practices internally to ensure that there's fair, equitable, and equal opportunities for all diverse businesses. And then last but not least, we are that buy-in for you. We're continuing to advocate and build the business case every day internally with our constituents, from management teams to boards, things of that nature. We're always here using our voice to advocate for you. And then one of my favorite things, in this role, I'm definitely a boots on the ground. I like to put my feet in your shoes. This helps me better from a continuous improvement standpoint to build the programs that we need to put in place, such as mentor protege programs, such as development programs, to help you succeed and make sure that you have all the resources and tools you need to be successful.
Yeah, and I'll just add to this. Supplier diversity professionals have always had a very difficult job, and the amount of sway they have in the procurement side varies by company, level of commitment, level of understanding. And one of the things, and just to build on what Dr. Erica just said, and one of the things I always talk to when I talk to the C-suite people and corporations, that, supplier diversity and developing these supply chains is an ROI practice. It increases profitability for the company. And having the best array, the best, most innovative and diversified array of suppliers, it's still the best business practice in spite of whatever rhetoric goes around. But your supplier diversity professional is not the one cutting the check. And
that part.
And I need to impress upon everyone in the room. I've been a consultant. I've been on both sides of this transaction, but I've never once assumed that the person who was helping me in the diversity space, or even in the frontline procurement space, is the person who's cutting the check. But they're the person who serves as the bridge, and they're the ones that are advocating your behalf. Help them be better advocates by giving them as much ammunition as possible about your value to their company, so they can take it back to the people who are cutting the checks and say, this is a good check to cut, and here's why. Give them your why as a supplier. Help them help you, to coin a phrase from a movie. Help them to help you. Because I see it a lot in my role where I'll get phone calls like, why isn't this person helping me? I talked to them 2 weeks ago. They said they would help me. Where's my contract? Why am I not wealthy yet? And if they had that ability to make you wealthy at the snap of a finger, they might not be sitting here. They may be sitting on a beach in Bora Bora somewhere. But please, have an understanding of what the supplier diversity professional does. Do your homework on what role they serve in that company, and understand the temperature of that company in terms of supplier diversity and development, because it varies from company to company, but they are not the ones cutting the check, but they are the ones that get you in the door. And respect them, please, because a lot of companies don't have these roles, and a lot of times I can say these things, they can't. A lot of times they play an adversarial role inside their own company, trying to make waves on your behalf as a diverse supplier. So, the reason I wanted to make sure we got that question out, because I think there's a misunderstanding of what a supplier diversity professional is. So thank you, everyone, for the answer to that question. I'm looking at the time, and we'll get to a question about data. Unless anyone else had any more comment about that. Okay, so the next question is about data. How can a business leverage data to drive strategic connections and relevance to your ability to include them into the contracting space and the procurement space? What can they do in terms of data?
I'll say this, and this may not be the proper answer, but I'll say how I use data internally, right? Data is very important, and we know what gets measured gets done. So how I use data is really to look at the holistic view of American Water in terms of how we are spending our dollars on a regular basis, who is doing well. So, for instance, I'll give a quick for instance. When I first joined American Water, our states have independent procurement programs. So you had some states who were doing very well, and this gets back to goals. So you have some states who were doing very well in terms of supplier diversity spend, and I'll say Illinois and California. One of the reasons they were doing well is because we have 16 regulated businesses across the United States, but Illinois and California, the state commissions really hold them accountable for what they're doing in terms of supplier diversity spend. So when we broke down the spend across our footprint, Illinois and California were standing out. And again, because they were reporting to the commission on a regular basis on how they were doing. Pennsylvania, and we have a very large footprint in the state of Pennsylvania, but our spend with diverse suppliers was not matching Illinois and California percentage of spend, because I measure by percentage of spend. So when we rolled out the numbers and start setting goals, I could not be as aggressive with Illinois and California in terms of goals, because both of them were upwards of 30% of spend with diverse suppliers, certified diverse businesses at that particular point. But with Pennsylvania was, I think when we started out, and I'm transparent with what I talk about, when we started out, Pennsylvania was down around 7-8% of spend with diverse suppliers. And again, it's a big footprint, which means they have a number of dollars to spend. To date, Pennsylvania is now in double digits in terms of their supplier diversity spend, and they are rivaling Illinois and California now in their overall spend data. So how I use data is to create a competition across the footprint of American Water. And I can tell you our state presidents, because how we are formed is each state has a leadership council, state president, VP of engineering, VP of operations, et cetera. So you create a competition amongst the different states to drive better performance. So internally, that's how I use the data. I use it in a number of different ways, but that is one way. From a supplier perspective, how they can use data, of course, we do an economic impact study every year, and we publish that study. you can take a look at that data and you can kind of glean from that data where we're strong at, where we may not be strong at. So again, knowing us better than we know ourselves. If you're looking to do business, say in Virginia, Maryland, and you see the numbers associated with Virginia, Maryland, and maybe that's an opportunity for your company. So not sure I answered it correctly, Brian, because you were talking about how suppliers can use data. I kind of transitioned to how I use data. But again, from an outsider, take a look again, know us better than we know ourselves. Take a look at whatever data we put out, and then study that and see where there might be opportunities for you to work with American Water. So
Larry, this is actually a very useful answer.
Yeah.
And I'll say that, although the question is about leveraging data, and I'm an economist, it is my life. I leverage other people's data. And if there's anything that your potential customer publishes in terms of data, market analysis, quarterly earnings reports, where their spending priorities are, what their new acquisitions are, their lines of business, what have they been trying to do in terms of innovation. This is all data. Data isn't just numbers, it's information. So leveraging the data that Larry is referring to in terms of what they're putting out is a good way of understanding. Is market intelligence. You're studying the data, and you're leveraging that to have a better understanding of your customer, and being able to speak their language is very important, and talk about what's important to them and innovate on their behalf to give them a good service that's aligned with what their data is telling them or what they're attempting to do with said data. But let's continue into this answer.
I would have to agree with the both of you. For me, it's all about benchmarking, right? And it's all about creating baseline assessments. So the disparity studies, conducting annual reports. Also, don't be afraid to measure within between your quarterly and your yearly reports. I like to do surveys to the vendors to say, hey, how are we doing? What are some of the barriers and challenges that you see with doing business with X, Y, and Z organization? So looking at disparity studies, economic impact studies, those are reports that you can use as a benchmark to help drive your KPIs and goals within your organization, or also to help develop them as well. Currently, right now, again, I don't want to keep using this and oversaturating that we're in this climate, but we are in this climate, and data means a lot right now because everyone is worrying about what is everyone else doing. And a lot of people are using metrics as a means of measurement for their complete program versus the transactional business as usual type of approach. So definitely look at benchmarking areas where you can conduct disparity studies or surveys as it relates to understanding what it is that the small businesses are seeking and where they're, struggling at as well. And corporations, can do that on a monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly time frame.
One thing I'd like to quickly add to that is that as you are building out the data and making sure it's connected to a story, the best story is what wins. And so to prevent analysis paralysis from all the information, having that end goal or the end message and using the data to tell that story is really helpful, and to use it to make sure that you're targeting who you are going after from a corporate perspective. What are they looking for that aligns with your business, and how do you use that information to tell a really good story?
Okay, great. Thank you. And the elephant in the room is that we're in an environment where everything is constantly changing, and it's causing us to shuffle our chess pieces in ways that we couldn't have imagined in the past, in order to make sure we're in an environment where we're still engaging and still doing the things that we want to do as in this supplier development space. With that, and we have about 10 minutes to go, I do want to dive into, I'll say, my last and a half question, because there may be some time for one more. But could you talk about some of the developmental programs that you have within your own organizations in terms of capacity building or developmental things, mentoring, and which ones have had the greatest impact out of the things that you're doing within your organizations? And I'll preface that by saying to the suppliers, seek out these type of programs and others within other organizations that are buyers that are not in this room right now.
Well, I'll kick it off, but I gotta give Dr. Erica credit for what I'm about to say. So we at American Water, we launched our supplier development program for New Jersey American Water last October. It was a 6-month development program, cohort format. We selected suppliers to participate in this. We just completed the first cohort. There were 7 suppliers within that cohort. They were taken through 6 different modules. First module was, how to do business with American Water. Second module was financial acumen. The third module was basically engineering and operations overview. We actually held that at one of our water treatment plants. Fourth module was growth and success. So we brought in a consultant to talk about what diverse suppliers should focus on in terms of growth. We mentioned it, capability statement, elevator pitch, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, we had 3 of our good performing diverse suppliers come in and give a talk on how they were able to navigate American Water, what were some of the pitfalls they ran into. So they gave a general overview of that. 5th module was we brought in our large prime contractors to meet with these particular suppliers and give them their thoughts on their expectations of subcontractors, what they are looking for, where they see opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. The 6th module was leadership. So we had in guest speakers to talk about leadership. A good friend of mine, his name is Carlton Highsmith. He owned a global packaging company, Specialized Packaging. They were a $300 million packaging company. So Carlton came in and gave a talk on leadership. And we also had one of our New Jersey board of directors come in and speak on leadership and board leadership. And the last piece is we will have a mentor-protege relationship. So we're going to have a 6-month mentor-protege where each one of the suppliers will be linked to a mentor within American Water. They will have an opportunity to meet with these mentors over a 6-month period. The protege has to set the agenda, can be on whatever they wish to speak on it on that particular day, on that particular meeting. Of course, opportunities with American Water, economic conditions, growth of American Water, anything they wish to choose to do. They will graduate on May 19th at our facility, and that's when they will be introduced to their mentor. We just completed that, and I'll just sum it up this way. When we went into this at first, we had all these grand ideas on how we wanted to do it. Had a discussion with Dr. Erica because, again, her former employer there, she developed a supplier development program. And in a way, ours is mirroring what Dr. Erica had put together at her former employer. But it's been very successful. It's been well received by senior leadership across the company. And we will be looking to our second cohort, probably the 4th quarter of this year. This was for New Jersey, New Jersey based, but we did include a couple of suppliers in the Philadelphia area. We will now look to either putting one together for Pennsylvania American Water or one of the other states. We haven't decided yet which way we're going to go. So that's what we're doing, Brian.
Okay, awesome. I hope everyone's taking comprehensive notes on that. Anybody else want to chime in?
So I can jump in to talk about the Commonwealth. Larry, what doesn't have to be said is understood. So just know that it's nothing but love over here for you and American Water and Dina. It's super, I'm happy to hear that everything is a success with your program. I think for everyone on the call that this is the way to go. These organizations are taking the necessary time for you to participate in a free program where you can gain access to resources and tools to help better your business. So with that being said, kudos and shout out to my former employer, PGW, and the folks over there at in the procurement and supplier diversity team. But within my new role in BDSBO as the deputy secretary, we have a mentor protege program. The Pennsylvania Department of General Services, we launched the MPP, which is Mentor Protege Program, in May of 2024. It is a 1-year long program that helps small businesses and small diverse businesses and veteran business enterprises to compete for more contracting opportunities within the Commonwealth. This program was established under Governor Shapiro's Executive Order 2023-18, and it provides an opportunity for protege business owners with one-on-one mentoring relationships with seasoned prime contractors. And the mentors provide guidance, support, and valuable insights that can help the proteges improve their business management and contracting bidding skills, bid readiness, as it relates to, getting useful and acquiring additional Commonwealth business and contracts. So I'll stop there because I know we're good on, have a short bit of time window here, and I would love for Dr. Lee and Jen to jump in. So I'll share the link in the chat. So this is definitely the way to go as it relates to these development programs, for sure.
I'll give way in the interest of time. Those are very comprehensive programs. We have one that's in the works, but is not developed yet, so I don't have anything to contribute there, but certainly have learned from my colleagues, and so look out for one in the future from Highmark as well.
Same for
Yay.
Okay, well, I'll just say that everyone in the room, in terms of being a supplier, when you are going to a corporation, one of the things you need to research are the supportive programs that they have in place. There were some questions that we got in chat that I tried to attempt to type in answers to, but again, I think these companies vary by company and qualifications, whether they have to be certified or not. I think it varies by the company. Some are use their programs as precursor to get certification. Some of them are catered towards companies that already are, and it also means scale and capacity of the company in terms of a growth model. So please be very aware that these things are often like fingerprints, and you really have to research your prey. You have to know how to hunt your prey, and that's an individualized basis. There's no blanket program, or there's not a lot of similarity between programs. I mean, there's a lot of activity between all the professionals, so there's some overlap and idea, and all great ideas are not original. They're just modified. So we take advantage of those opportunities and the collective knowledge in the room. With that said, I think we have about 1 minute and 30 seconds to go. Anybody have any nuggets or final comments before we hit our number?
Yeah, I'd like to just share with the audience, all of you small business owners, this is an effort that is designed to demonstrate care for you. The idea is that with the economy that's happening and with the administration and some of the moves they're making with executive orders and how that would seem to be adversarial against all things DEI, supplier diversity, the group of opportunity ambassadors and I had decided that we wanted to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. It's easy to lament what's going on and to sort of complain about what's going on, and that's not designed to be insensitive toward anybody who might be suffering, really. But we are individuals who have dealt with adversity before and for generations. This is no different. And we're going to weather this storm. We're going to be more successful on the other end. But when we sit around and think about, well, how can we be part of the solution? This idea was generated. It was something that Brian and I talked about last year and said we really ought to bring something like this together. And so tapping in with Dr. Erica, who's a really good friend of mine and a respected colleague, and obviously with Larry and Jen, we wanted to just come together and offer help for you to reach your dreams, to expand your business, to be able to take care of your families, just as we want to take care of ours. And so we are working together. This is an ecosystem, as Erica mentioned earlier, Dr. Erica, and we want to be full participants in that. So thank you for being here today. Certainly, I appreciate the fact that with the relationship that we have with EMSDC as well as WBEC, and just bringing all of us together, supplier diversity profession, advocacy organizations, all designed to help make life better for everybody. Again, at high tide, all the boats in the water rise together. Let's rise.
And with that, those final words of wisdom from the Reverend Doctor, I'd like to close things out and thank you all for participating. Hope this is very useful. We have 3 more in the series, so check your calendars. And I will be moderating at least one more or in conjunction with Liz. And on behalf of EMSDC and WBEC, Highmark Health, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, American Water, and Giant Eagle, and Brittany Rivera on my team, I'd like to thank you all for participating, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.